Sports, a place where many athletes find success.
This is likely the final play that matters. End zone wide open. What a night for Mike Williams.
But where there's a winner, there has to be a loser.
He came a long way. You hear me? Come here, I love you, bro. Good.
It's one thing to watch the game, but another to analyze it. Let's talk about the numbers. You ready?
YouTube, what's going on, man? Back at giving another video. It's your boy Numbers Fan Jay. I'm gonna go ahead and get into some breaking news here. So news coming out of the Big Ten and the Pac-12 are both canceling their 2020 football season. So there will be no football for the following programs and a few more schools that I won't name, but Ohio State University, Purdue, Wisconsin, Michigan and Michigan State, Iowa. That's Big Ten. So Pac-12, USC, Arizona and Arizona State, Colorado, Stanford, Cal, Oregon, and Washington. Those teams, as many of us NFL fans may know, produce a lot of NFL players. So this is huge, huge news to not have a football season. This is going to have a tremendous impact on the draft for 2021. A lot of questions now for the NFL as well as the rest of the college football program. So we're going to see how this thing goes. That is not a good sign at all. So sorry to have to break y'all that news. But anyway, getting into the predictions. AFC South predictions for you today. Last year we predicted the Colts at 1. Texans at 2, Titans at 3, Jaguars at 4. Totally wrong. Completely wrong. I'm sorry, okay? The final standings for this division, Texans at 1, Titans at 2, Colts at 3, Jaguars at 4. So actually, I got one team right, okay? The Jaguars were at 4. Give me a little bit of credit for that, all right? So that was the AFC South for last year. Gonna go ahead and get into it for this year, but before I get started, please hit that subscribe button, comment, let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you think, if you disagree with my predictions, if you agree with my predictions, if you think that I'm crazy, just tell me something, talk to me. Hit that like button and that notification bell, subscribe. You know what it is. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. The Cellar Dwellers for 2020, the AFC South. I gotta go back with it again. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars in 2019 went 6-10. They went 2-4 in divisional games. And they just were a bad team. Just plain and simple. They had bad luck too. Their starting quarterback got hurt. Nick Foles was expected to be the starter. Got hurt in week 1. So just unpredictable. You can't really predict injuries. But let's get into some stats. 2019 offensively for the Jaguars, not a lot stood out. In a good or a bad way, they have a bunch of mid numbers, in the low 20s, in the teens. They were 26 in points per game, which is the most important part about offense. You want to score points. They struggle doing that. So that's something that they need to work on. And they punted 75 times. Not the most in the NFL, but very close. The Jets, by the way, are the #1 team that punted last year. They punted 87 times. And the Patriots punted 81 times. Just a little side note to think about there. Defensively, 2019 for the Jaguars, they were 24th in total defense and 28th versus the run. They were also 9th in sacks, so that was a good thing for them. They were known as Saxonville just a few years ago. So this team still found a way to get to the quarterback. So that's at least one part that you could say you can hang your hat on and be like, okay, we got to the quarterback. That's one thing we did do. Losses personnel-wise for the Jaguars, Calais Campbell had 6.5 sacks. Like I said, this team found a way to get to the quarterback. Now, Calais Campbell is not what he used to be. He had 6.5 sacks this past season, but the previous season, he had 10.5, and the one before that, he had 14.5. So you can see the obvious decline going on here. Marquise Lee, often known as the heart of the team in the receiving corps, has departed for the Patriots, but he has opted out of the 2020 season. So, Jaguars fans, you don't have to watch him in another jersey this year. And also, just want to put another side note in there. Leonard Fournette, the team has declined their option for his last year of his contract. So, he will be a free agent after this year. Gonna have to see where he's gonna go. He's a workhorse type of back. He is good when he gets a bunch of carries. So, that's just a side note. Additions personnel-wise, they did get Tyler Eifert. As I mentioned a few videos ago, he was mentioned among the better tight ends in the league at one point before his injury started to pile up. Draft-wise for the Jacksonville Jaguars, first round they drafted C.J. Henderson, a cornerback out of Florida. They also drafted K'Lavon Chaisson, a linebacker out of LSU, in the first round as well. They had 2 first-round picks. Second round, they had Laviska Shenault Jr., wide receiver out of Colorado. And in the third round, they had Devon Hamilton, defensive tackle out of Ohio State. Bottom line for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Gardner Minshew still have questions. I'm not sold on Gardner Minshew. You know, it's all right to come in as a backup quarterback and get some wins. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks do that. But we haven't seen a lot of quarterbacks come in as a backup and win multiple Super Bowls like a Tom Brady, you know? So, I'm not sold. Mike Glennon is the backup. We know he's not the answer. The pressure is on the rookies for this Jacksonville Jaguars team, and I think that would be their doom yet again. You know they have a stud in DJ Chark. Is Shenault going to be the number 2 receiver? Who's going to be the number 2 receiver? This offense, to me, is just unimpressive. I'm not impressed by this offense. They also have a new offensive coordinator in Jay Gruden, so don't expect this offense to do a whole lot this year. Learning a whole new system, getting used to a whole new language. Just don't expect a lot. So moving on to number 3, the Houston Texans. Now the Houston Texans, 2019 went 10-6. They won the division. They went 4-2 in divisional games. They beat the Bills, and they lost in the second round to the Chiefs. Of course, they blew a big lead in that game. I think it was 24-0 or something of that nature. 2019 offensively, the Houston Texans actually weren't that great statistically. They were 9th in rushing, and they were 8th in the most sacks allowed. So one of these stats you want. The other stat you don't really want there. The 8th most sacks allowed in the league is definitely not what you want. Defensively, they were 26 in total defense. They were 26 in total defense. 29th versus the pass, 25th versus the run, and 27th in sacks. So this defense was terrible. Plain and simple, they were terrible. Couldn't stop anybody, guys. You can't be 29th versus the pass and 25th versus the run and expect to actually win the Super Bowl. I don't care how good your quarterback is or your receivers. They did tie for 15th in turnover differential at plus or minus 0, however you want to look at that. Lost personnel-wise for the Houston Texans, Carlos Hyde went to the Seahawks. Jonathan Joseph, longtime Texan, was locked down corner for a while. 36 years old, they felt it was time to let him go. Rightfully so. Biggest loss, of course, is DeAndre Hopkins, who they traded for peanuts. I don't get it. Lamar Miller, starting running back, also a loss. So 2 big losses. You lost your best receiver, one of the top 3 receivers in the league. You lost Lamar Miller, your starting running back, who made strides with the team. Additions-wise, what do? You go out and get David Johnson for the trade for D-Hop, which David Johnson just isn't who he was before his injury. That's why he got traded away. David Johnson once was considered a top 10 back. Randall Cobb, another addition, and Brandon Cooks, another addition. Randall Cobb has injury history. We know he does. Brandon Cooks is a model of inconsistency. You can't expect these guys to replace the production of DeAndre Hopkins. You pair those guys with Will Fuller, who we know can't stay on the field. And what do you have? Like, what are y'all doing? Draft-wise for the Houston Texans, second round of the draft, because they traded away the first round draft pick. Second round of the draft, Ross Blacklock, defensive tackle out of TCU. Third round, they drafted Jonathan Greenard, linebacker out of Florida. Bottom line for the Houston Texans, this team is declining, not improving. They didn't make any improvements on the O-line that are very notable. They gave away DeAndre Hopkins. They don't have their starting running back that they had last year. They bring in David Johnson, who we don't know what he's going to look like. And they have a new defensive coordinator in Anthony Weaver, so that we know having a new coordinator is going to be ups and downs. There are going to be struggles. They didn't make any improvements in their secondary, which I just mentioned was 29th versus the pass. Gave away their veteran leadership in Jonathan Joseph, which I understand. He's 36. Okay, but you could have kept him, I guess. That's neither here nor there. But I just think the Texans are gonna take a step back this year. They lost too much. They didn't improve enough. They did not improve enough. You can't play like that in the NFL in the offseason. You can't do it. So, coming in at number 2, I have the Indianapolis Colts. Colts in 2019 went 7-9, 3-3 in divisional games. They missed the playoffs. This team was a victim of the Andrew Luck incident. Andrew Luck, if y'all aren't familiar, retired right before the start of the season. It was either a week or 2 weeks before the start of the NFL season. Your starting NFL quarterback says, "I don't want to play ball anymore. I'm sorry." Just horrible to hear. It's just a letdown, a disappointment. You were expecting to be a Super Bowl contender with this quarterback, and he just retires. Like, I'm not saying that him retiring is bad for him, but it was bad for the team. So anyway, let's get into it. 2019 offensively, the Colts were 25th in total offense, 30th in passing, 7th in rushing, and they had the 10th fewest sacks allowed in the league. So this offensive line did their job. Defensively, they were 23rd versus the pass, 7th versus the run, and they were 12th in takeaways. They were 12th in turnover differential as well at +2. So they were on the positive side of the turnover spectrum. But this team, Jacoby Brissett, showed at times that he couldn't push the ball down the field. So what do? Well, losses in free agency, personnel-wise. Eric Ebron, all right. Adam Vinatieri, rehabbing his knees, 48 years old. It's time for him to go. You know, he might just have to hang his cleats up. He says he wants to keep playing, but you're 48, man. You're about to be 50 years old. I know you're trying to make it to 50, make a statement, but just, you got to let it go. You got to let it go. Additions personnel-wise, of course, I mentioned Jacoby Brissett was a problem eventually. Phillip Rivers coming over from the Chargers. Chargers let him go in free agency. They also added Xavier Rhodes, the cornerback, so hopefully to improve that 23rd pass defense. And DeForest Buckner, you trade your first round pick to the 49ers for DeForest Buckner, hoping to improve against the pass. He can rush the pass. So what's half of the pass battle? Half of defending the pass is getting to the quarterback and affecting the quarterback on throws. So great pickup there. Draft-wise for the Colts, second round, they drafted Michael Pittman Jr., the wide receiver out of USC. Also in the second round, they drafted Jonathan Taylor, the running back out of Wisconsin. And in third round, they drafted Julian Blackmon, the cornerback out of Utah. Bottom line, I am kind of confused by the Jonathan Taylor signing. Now, you have Marlon Mack, who's been running very, exceptionally well. Did not expect him to be that great of a player. And you go out and draft another running back in the second round? I guess they're going for a running back by committee, but hey, I'm not the one making the decisions here, right? So they did get Phillip Rivers. They improved in the areas of need, which is corner, defensive line, and quarterback. Although Phillip Rivers is declining, I think he is an upgrade over Jacoby Brissett right now. I think he can teach Jacoby Brissett a lot if they plan on going with him after this year, because I don't think Phillip Rivers is going to be able to play that well, guys. Just being honest. I'm very familiar with my quarterback. So we'll leave that there. And winning this division for the first time in a while is going to be the Tennessee Titans. 2019, the Titans went 9-7. They went 3-3 in divisional games. They upset the Patriots. They upset the Ravens. And they lost in the AFC Championship to the Kansas City Chiefs. 2019 offensively, this team was third in rushing with the league's leading rusher, Derrick Henry, 10th in points per game, 3rd most sacks allowed in the league, and the 7th fewest giveaways. Defensively, this team was 24th versus the pass, and they were 9th in turnover differential at +6. So this team did a great job taking the ball away and holding on to it. Losses personnel-wise for the Tennessee Titans. Cameron Wake, good on the D-line, getting up there in age though. Deion Lewis went off to the Giants. Ryan Suckup, another kicker that has a little injury history here. Delaney Walker, a playmaker for the Titans for the past 3 or 4 years, their best playmaker. Wesley Woodyard, the tackle leader the past 2 years, and Jack Conklin, we know he was the starting tackle. So those are some big losses. Those are a couple big losses there. Additions-wise, you go out and get Vic Beasley, and you get Jonathan Joseph. You pick up the veteran from your division rival, who maybe can give you a few tips. Smart pickup there by the Titans. Draft-wise, this team drafted Isaiah Wilson, offensive tackle out of Georgia, in the 1st round. In the 2nd round, they drafted Christian Fulton, cornerback out of LSU. 3rd round, they drafted Darrington Evans, running back out of Appalachian State. The bottom line for the Titans, they say they won't be using the defensive coordinator this year. That's odd. So now we've went over 2 different teams. This team with not using the defensive coordinator. We've also went to a team that's sharing co-defensive coordinators. It's weird to me. It's very weird. But that information came from Jeff Curry, the CBS sports reporter. No big worries for this team. No big worries. They lost a few things, but they drafted very well. They drafted offensive tackle. They needed offensive tackle after letting go of Jack Conklin. They drafted a corner. They got to improve that pass defense. That was 24th. So they did things the right way that they need to be done, hopefully to capitalize on what they did last season. They still have Tannehill. They got Derrick Henry coming back. They re-signed him. A.J. Brown is still here. He made a lot of plays. Corey Davis is on the PUP list. That's concerning, but they do have Jonnu Smith at tight end. He's made a lot of plays. Malcolm Butler, Vic Beasley, Kevin Byard. Only thing that really worries me about this team is inside linebacker after losing Wesley Woodyard, your tackles leader. Gotta find somebody to make plays for you in there, or you will struggle against the run. Trust me, as a Chargers fan, I do know about struggling against the run. But that's all I got for y'all. AFC West predictions dropping next Thursday. Thank y'all for watching, man. Leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you're new, thank you for your view. I appreciate you. It's your boy, Jay. We out of here.